Here's our next example. Negative x over x minus 5 equals negative 2/5. Before we get into solving this equation, there's something we need to notice about our denominator. This denominator right here, x minus 5. If you think back, you've probably encountered at some point in your life that a denominator can never equal 0, that a 0 in a denominator makes an expression undefined. And this is very important for solving equations because we need to understand that if we work through this problem and get for an answer x equals 5, it is not a valid solution because, remember, a solution is that number that if we plug in place of the variable, it makes our equation true. And a solution like x equals 5, if I plug a 5 in place of x, this denominator is 5 minus 5, which equals 0. 0 in the denominator is automatically a no-go. It means no solution. So with problems where we have a variable in the denominator, it is helpful for us to say right up front, what is a number that could not possibly be a solution? So I took a quick look with this problem. I saw that x minus 5 is in a denominator. There are even some steps you can do. I could say, this denominator, x minus 5, it should never ever equal 0. I've got a not equals to 0. And if I look at that not equals and I still try to solve it, if I still try to get the x by itself, I would add 5 to both sides. And I'm looking at x, there's the cancel. X cannot equal 5. And that's just a different way for us to arrive at this answer about what number, if we put it in place of this x, would make that expression 0. So x minus 5 should not equal 0 because it's a denominator. And when we solve it, we say that x should not equal 5. So that is an important piece of information, and I like to find that piece of information out at the very beginning of the problem. So I took a quick look and said, okay, I should not ever have an answer that is 5. And if for some reason, as I worked through my steps and got an answer of 5, it would mean there really is no solution. We'll revisit this idea as we go through some more problems, but let's work through this problem now. Negative x over x minus 5 equals negative 2/5. If you look at this equation and you think to yourself, this is a proportion where I could cross multiply, that the answer is yes, you definitely can do that. However, for the examples that we're going to go through, I'm going to stick to my same basic steps, which would be find the common denominator and multiply the LCD to both sides to cancel the denominators. And if you think cross multiply, that definitely will also work the same way. So, what is our common denominator? We're finding common denominator the same way we found common denominator with the adding and subtracting problems. We have to first make sure that all the denominators are factored. The first denominator is just x minus 5. We can't factor that anymore. The second denominator is 5. We cannot factor that anymore. Our LCD needs to use the factors that we have found. So we need to have one 5, and we need to have an x minus 5 in parentheses. There's our LCD. Okay, now I'm going to be doing a lot of writing just to try to be clear about what all of our steps are. And as you work through problems, you might find that you don't need to do as much rewriting as I'm about to do. So don't feel negatively about seeing all this writing and get the impression that these are very, very lengthy problems. They certainly are a little bit lengthy, but we have steps we have to go through. And I don't want you to think that these are problems that are always going to take 3 or 4 pages to work through. Okay, back to this one. Multiply every term by our common denominator, this 5 times x minus 5. So I'll do it onto the right side, times 5 with x minus 5. If it's helpful, we can put that over 1. And we'll do it on the left side also, times 5x minus 5 over 1. And remember, we are looking for, right away, the canceling. On the right side, 5 with 5 cancel. Let me just write down what's left over on the right side. It's going to be a negative 2 times x minus 5. Now I'm leaving the denominator out because it's a denominator of 1. So it's really a negative 2 times x minus 5 over 1, but we don't want to deal with the denominators. Our goal here with this move, when we multiply the LCD to both sides, it's to cancel the denominators. So this is my result on the right side. A quick look onto the left side, we'll see that the x minus 5 will cancel with the x minus 5, and we have left over 5 times negative x. 5 times negative x, negative 5x. So it's a cleaned up equation, but we still need to solve it. It right now looks like a linear equation, but usually before I make that decision, I want to do all the multiplying, distributing that we would have to do. So on the right side, we have to distribute this negative 2. It will for sure turn out to be a linear equation in this problem. Negative 2x with a positive 10. Careful there that we're doing a negative times negative. On the right side, it's negative 5x. And it's a linear equation to solve, so I'm going to put my x terms onto the left side. I'll add 2x to cancel there, but whatever we do on one side, we need to do it to the other side of the equation. There's our cancel. We're looking at, on the left side, negative 5x plus 2x, negative 3x equals 10. And one last move to solve for x, let's divide by negative 3, both sides. Cancel, we have the x solved, x equals negative 10/3. Now remember, our negative sign, it can stay in the denominator. When we have just one negative, it can be with the denominator, it can be with the numerator, or it can be out in front of the fraction. And I would put it out in front, it's just my habit, but it's equivalent if the negative sign stays with the 3 or if it goes up with the 10, just as long as there's still just one negative sign. And I want to make sure that the fraction is simplified. We can't simplify 10 over 3 any further, so there's our answer. X equals negative 10/3. A quick check that we didn't, with this problem, arrive at the value that we said was no good. So x, if x is a positive 5, that is a bad answer, and we avoided that bad answer. We got x equals negative 10/3. There's our solution.